Welcome to the Bookers Alliance podcast, where we hold the pencil and the pencil is power. Coming at you right now is your host, Marky Mark, along with the man, the myth, the legend, Frank Donaldson. Join us as we discuss the ever-changing landscape of professional wrestling. So hang on tight, you jabronis, and enjoy the ride. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you for joining today's episode of the Bookers Alliance podcast. Come on in, bring yourself up a ringside seat, but somebody needs to maybe bar the door because we got a few guys trying to run, don't we?
Oh, yeah. It looks like the Katie bar the door, as Gorilla Monsoon used to say. We're keeping you in here. We're locking you in today. So get in your ringside seats, and we're going to look at what's going on in the world right now. Where are these people going? Where are they headed?
Yeah, so we're officially titling today's episode, My Time is Up.
Uh-oh. My time is now, so that works.
Now,
maybe they do need to get out so we can get in. Get some of those guys out. Let the Bookers Alliance in. Let me in now.
So we're talking about some of these guys that have contracts coming up that are expiring. What may happen, where they might go, what will they be doing? Will they be leaving a company or staying on? Dude, it's all over the place.
Anything can happen. You know, like they say never, but you know, you got, so the two main topics that we're going to look at today, they're kind of at different avenues in their career right now. You know, you got one guy who rightfully so could hang him up and say, hey, I'm done, and he would have a stellar career. He wouldn't, there'd be nothing left really for him to prove unless he chose. Mm-hmm. Then you got another couple of guys that, I mean, they're right at the height of their career right now. Their market value probably has never been higher than what it is at this very moment. So, you know, maybe they cash out. Maybe they look and say, hey, who's got the deepest pockets? Maybe they look and say, hey, you know, we got more stuff to do here where we're at. A lot of, the world's their oyster right now. You know, they can really do what they want. And then, you know, in that same vein of thought, we got another guy who's always teasing about, you know, he's going where the deepest pockets are. So, you know, there's a lot of that going on here.
Yeah, so let's get into the first ones that we were talking about here, and that's the Usos. They've got some contracts expiring and coming up. And of course, they have been a very integral part of the Bloodline storyline for the past 3 years.
Yep.
In some cases, making the story.
Absolutely.
So with some of the performances that they've laid down there. So you've got, of course, we're talking about Jimmy and Jey Uso. Uh-huh. So Jimmy started out in this storyline first, right? If I'm right?
Jimmy was out on injury.
Jimmy was out. So it was Jey that started out.
Yeah, he was challenging Roman, and you know, they kind of took it to where Jimmy came back to save Jey from a Roman beatdown, and then all of a sudden the Bloodline formed. You know, we kind of took off from there.
Yeah, and for what those guys, where they were, now granted, I'm going to give them their flowers. They're probably one of the best tag teams that we have seen in the modern era come through the WWE.
Certainly one of the most decorated.
Right, and not going to compare them to other tag teams like Heart Foundation, Rockers, things like that.
No,
can't really compare them. It's different generations, different set of circumstances. But when you look back at some of the matches that they've had, especially my mind always goes back to Hell in a Cell matches that they've had. They kind of set the standard as far as Hell in a Cell for a tag team.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the face-offs they had with the New Day were reminiscent of, you know, for a historian like Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express. I mean, those two teams were in those two roles at that point. And, you know, and let's be honest, at that point, you know, everybody said, hey, the Usos are one of the greatest tag teams of all time. And everybody thought, well, that's their peak. That's as good as it's going to get for them. You know, that being called that is probably the best thing they could possibly have going for them. And then all of a sudden this Bloodline thing came around, and my God, you want to talk about leveling up.
They changed mountains.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're in a different playing field now. And that's kind of what I was referring to about stock. You know, their stock had a cap at one point, you know, in the tag team division as one of the best tag teams, blah, blah, blah. That only could take you so far.
Right.
Once you find yourself as an intricate part of a main event storyline that's being called one of the best storylines ever in wrestling, I mean, you're in a whole new playing field now. That's leveling up on a completely different level.
And usually when you see a tag team level up, It's a split of the tag team, and they take them both into singles divisions.
Kind of like Sean and Marty, things like that.
And rarely does both members of the tag team survive that.
No.
Usually
both
you
guys
have
can't
one.
elevate. There's always that one standout member. I mean, Bret Hart stood out in the Hart Foundation. Davey Boy Smith stood out in the British Bulldogs. Again, Shawn Michaels obviously stood out in the Rocker. And that list goes on and on.
Yep.
But this was a case where both guys leveled
survived.
up.
Yeah.
And they both leveled up equally. Like, you had main event Jey Uso. So Jey kind of gets more of the one-on-ones. You don't see Jimmy doing too much one-on-one, but his part in the story makes that story roll just as much as Jey and Roman does. So you can't discount any of his contributions to it either. Those two guys are on equal level of that playing field and only a shade behind what Roman's doing right now.
Yep. And I think that, Roman, we'll kind of pull back the curtain a little bit. I think Roman was the caretaker for his family.
Absolutely.
He really, saw what could happen if they take them down individual paths, but at the same time, you're keeping it in the family.
Absolutely.
And he was and that's part of his story as far as storyline, but that's also reality.
Yeah, definitely.
He's the head of the table. He's taking care of that Samoan family right now.
I mean, and this isn't the first time that's happened. I mean, think about when Rock was at the top of his thing. Who ran Stone Cold Steve Austin over, to find himself in a main event role? It was Rikishi, his cousin. He found a way to give the rub to family. There's nothing better. If you're going to excel in a business where you get a little bit of stroke, then you pull up those guys that need pulling up, and that starts in the family. You start there. You can pull up whoever else you need to go from there, but you're definitely going to level up your own blood first. And I mean, they've even leveled up Solo at this point. There's a lot of people that
you've got the whole Fatu family leveling up.
There you go. Yeah,
I've seen Rikishi's other boy kind of pulling up YouTube now. He's got his own YouTube channel going.
Yeah, I mean, and he's not even in the company, but he's still building off that momentum that whole family's got right now.
Umaga's son has his own YouTube channel going.
And they're just teasing like, hey, I might join the bloodline, and just because the bloodline is there.
Yep.
They that all of a sudden they get a little bit of credibility, and now they're making money off of that, not even in the company. So that's called one hand washing the other. It's all types of nepotism, but I'm all for it because, hey, again, the Samoans didn't have any power coming into WWE. They worked hard to earn their spots. And now once you get to that point where you're at the top, you pull up the guys that came up with you.
But what if the pendulum now swings the other way? What if the top that they're out now is the top?
Well,
then what happens? Do you stick around and watch the tumble down the mountain? Or do you just call it quits? Deuces, you're out? I mean, what do they do?
So, and as far as a lot of things go, I don't really pay attention to what this guy says, but there's some things that he says that do reign true, and that's Elon Musk. What'd he say? To the moon. When the bubbles are as full as it's going to get, you don't need to wait for it to burst. Sometimes you need to just move on to a new bubble. So, at this point now, do the Usos, they've got a lot of, do they stay together first? Let's talk about that. They could split. Let's say main event Jey Uso really does want to be the main event. He does want to be the new tribal chief. He does want to be the head of the table. Well, he ain't doing that over in WWE right now because you got Roman Reigns sitting up top of that mountain. But what would be to stop him from going over to Tony Khan world over there and saying, you know what, y'all need a tribal chief? Here you go.
I think if anything, blood is thicker than water. I think where you see one, you're going to see the other. I don't think you'll see them split. I do think, though, that they would both probably be that challenging for the singles division, but staying together as a faction.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see them two ever splitting apart. Something about brothers, something about sisters, but then there's something different about twins.
Yeah.
Them two shared a womb together. They closer than close.
I definitely understand it. I don't see them splitting either. It's just, as long as you're attached there, as we just talked about Roman pulling you up because he's at the top of the mountain, if one brother starts to get ahead of where the other brother's at, now instead of pulling up, that anchor is kind of pulling you down. So again, and I'm using Jay as an example just because he did have more main event storylines with Roman throughout their run here. Again, if let's say both brothers go to AEW, well, if Jay's fight, let's say Jay gets in there with MJF, which could be a dream match in and of itself. At that point, you start talking about that kind of wrestling. But do you need Jimmy there with, to sell the? You're not going to recreate the bloodline. That's not going to happen. I mean, Tony Khan can sign all the Samoans he wants. You ain't going to do the bloodline again because it ain't going to be Roman Reigns, so it ain't going to be the same thing. Let's call a spade a spade. Everybody can't be the tribal chief. It just can't happen. But because of everybody, all the wrestling fans watching AEW know that history, if Jay goes over there and says, he's going to be the king of the mountain, he can call him, he can't use those names in WWE's trademark.
What, double J?
Yeah, he could be Double J. He could be king of the mountain. He could go over there and call himself whatever, so whatever, he needs to call himself to automatically have that credibility to make some good damn storytelling in wrestling. So again, I don't really see it happening. It's fun to talk about though.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think those guys are WWE lifers.
Yeah.
I think
that family's WWE family.
If they're done with wrestling, then they're done.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're done yet. I think they got more to give. But
now one of them's wife is over there at Impact, if I remember right. Isn't Trinity over there currently the women's champion over at Impact? I mean,
she is, but from what I can tell, I don't think they have no want to go wandering over to Impact.
Definitely not going to go to Impact. So again, as we just said, their stock's as high as it's ever been.
Them bank accounts ain't big enough.
No, that's the thing. Their stocks are so high right now that the Impact couldn't even get in the financial talk conversation right there. More or less the talent, the stories, none of that. All that's out of. They just can't get that. They can't swim in those waters right now because the Usos would be commanding about as top a dollar as any tag team has ever been able to command. And let's be honest, Tony Khan's the only other person not named WWE that could foot that bill.
Yep.
And yes, I do see him saying he would foot that bill, but I agree with you. No, I don't see them saying, we're going to betray the WWE. They're basically intertwined. It's like McMahon's, Fatu's, Anoa'i's. They're all kind of tied in there together. You use the Rhodes. You kind of see it all in the same. I don't think you're going to see it separate now. I think we've seen Cody separate. He's even come back. I don't think we're going to see any of those kind of names, those family ties names, find their way outside of WWE again.
All right, so let's pivot and let's talk about another man whose contract is currently up, but this is on the different end of the spectrum. This guy has had a tenured career, a 25-year tenured career in the WWE.
He's old.
He's old. He's older than, well...
He's older than me, so that's all that matters. That's all I need to worry about. So,
when we're talking about Edge, we're talking about Adam Copeland.
Adam Copeland, another North Carolina resident. All right,
hometown up there in Asheville.
Yeah, hometown.
So we just saw him do a tribute match, 25-year celebration match between him and Sheamus. A lot of good things.
Toronto, home crowd.
A lot of good things came out of that match. Very, very, very cool. People were speculating, what's going on. There were rumors flying around going, he put it out there to WWE as what he wanted, and WWE declined his offer.
Yeah.
And so the rumors are now swirling. Oh, we're going to get an Edge and Christian reunion in AEW.
Hey, there's always that potential. I mean, they've actually got Christian in the ring again in AEW, so if it was going to happen, there ain't no other time it's going to happen besides now, because the way Christian's looking out there, he's winding down too. So, if Edge is 25 years, Christian's right there at 25 with him. So,
but you had the man take to Twitter himself, or excuse me, X, whatever we want to call it.
X, yeah. Elon Musk reference again. 2 references in one show. What the hell are we doing?
Elon, we'll take your sponsorship anytime you want to come on.
That's true. Send a Tesla down here. I'll drive a Tesla to the recordings every week. We're recording in the Tesla, matter of fact.
So he took to posting on social media himself though and said, "Look, I just come on here to set some things straight. I do have a contract extension right now in my inbox.
So it's in the inbox.
It's in my inbox.
Where I just contemplate.
Just got to think about it, and I understand." I can't understand what he's contemplating being a wrestler, but I can understand what he's contemplating being a dad.
Yeah.
He's got 2 little girls at home. And, you know, I understand one of the reasons why he got back into this. He went on and said that, you know, he got back into the ring. Well, it was taken from him, but he wanted his girls to see him do it too. Yeah. And he wanted to go out on his own terms.
Yep.
But as a dad, them kids are only little for so long.
Yep.
So I know that's part of what he's contemplating.
Yep. Well, so, you know, and like you said, you can relate to that, you know, being a dad yourself, you can see that. Well, I can relate to the other aspect of it for him, and he's old, right? Yeah. So as I'm getting older, I completely understand some of the stuff I used to do. Like, you take a fall, right? Like, let's say...
Oh, no, we don't take them no more.
10 years ago, if I took a fall...
we don't run, we don't jump.
At the ripe old age of 35, if I fell down... I'd have popped right back up and been mad at myself for falling down. That would have been I'd have been angry. I'd have been frustrated. If I fall today, first of all, I ain't popping right back up. I'm gonna lay there for a little bit and first and take stock.
Yep.
Find out if anything's anything
broke.
Yeah, is anything damaged that I'm not gonna be able to get up. That's the first thing, and that may be 5 minutes that I'm gonna lay there and basically assess the situation. Yep. You know, it's like Iron Man used to have. You know, where he'd say, "Give me a status check."
Give me a diagnostic.
Yeah, basically, I take a status check if I go down today because I got to go through my brain and see. First of all, is everything functioning right? And second thing, when I get up, am I going to be able to stay up or am I going to come right back down? So that's one. And two, them aches and pains don't disappear the way they used to disappear.
Nope.
So, you know, you're bumping around out there, you're going through tables or you're doing crazy, ridiculous stuff that you made your career on with a surgically repaired neck and a lot of other surgeries that have been, you know, done to your body over the years. That stuff don't feel the same as it used to when 25 years ago when Edge was the ripe old age of 23 or whatever he was. That stuff don't feel the same no more. So from personal accounts, I think we both can understand and relate to why he would want to step away. And I mean, on the business, what else has he really got to prove?
And I think he's probably looking at the same thing. And of course, one of the best documentaries we've seen WWE put together and produce was The Last Ride from The Undertaker. Yep. You know, he's probably going through some of the things that Mark Calloway went through as far as your body just ain't there no more.
No. And we saw that in the Sheamus match.
Yeah,
I mean, we saw him out there and he wasn't the Edge that, he wasn't the Edge of 2010. He thought he's missing some steps, which he should. He's 20 years older than when he started.
If he wouldn't miss any steps, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
No, absolutely not. If he wasn't missing any steps, I'd be on whatever regimen he was on to keep it up because I know I'm missing some steps. But let's be honest. I mean, Edge ain't going to win no more world titles, right? No. And how many more storylines can they really put him in? You know, who else out there that he hasn't touched since he's been back? Who else out there can he really elevate to the next level?
And honestly, so might not be a popular opinion, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it. The match he wound up working with Sheamus was a stretch anyway, as far as storyline.
Absolutely. I mean, they dug about as deep as you can possibly dig to give him something to have a good reason to go out there and have a good match in Toronto.
And even Sheamus did what he needed to do to kind of get that over because it wasn't going over until Sheamus pulled him in and say, "Are you sure you made the right decision, fella?"
Yeah, I mean, because at that point, it was just two guys having a match.
Right.
I mean,
but Sheamus,
I get it with
Sheamus
the whole,
all of a sudden
Sheamus
made it.
kind of, escorted him back in with the whole bike riding incident. I get all that, but nobody else was getting all that.
Nah.
Everybody else is like, okay, yeah, you guys are friends outside of here. Why are y'all wrestling today?
Yeah.
That almost did as much damage as it did good to try to create a story. It kind of took away from the story of, well, you guys are buddies. You're out here riding bikes. Now all of a sudden y'all are kicking each other's ass. And well, that ain't likely. I mean, you know what the hell's going on here? So
no, but we've seen Sheamus do that though before, especially in Drew matches where they kind of pulled it back a little bit and go, we're friends. We'll go out and have a pint at the bar, but in this ring, I'm gonna beat your ass. They've really got that point across, and I'm glad he did that because I wasn't into it. I was into it just to see Edge have that celebration match. But I was not. I didn't care about it. But when he did that small little thing right there, I went into it and I went, oh, wait a minute. It's like Sheamus really could go in there and do some stuff.
Like you said, at the end of the day, you're two competitors. I mean, let's be honest, boxers in the past, they don't hate each other. You know, even Mike Tyson used to say, he's like, everything, all that stuff I say, that's to sell tickets.
Yeah.
He's like, you know, I got to get butts in seats. So I'm going to talk trash. I'm going to do everything to, now in Mike's younger days, I don't know if Mike knew where the line was in there.
Mike didn't have a line.
No, because those guys, when he got in the ring,
them boys were pulling him back.
The same rage that he was giving in them interviews, you saw that in the ring, and you saw them dudes being hella scared about it. I mean, you got 270-pound world heavyweight boxing champions that were in there scared. Like
many a night we paid $70, $80 for a pay-per-view for a 15-second match.
Hell yeah. It was like going to the strip club. Oh, wait.
Well, yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You pay all that money, you get the shortest pleasure of your life. But I digress.
Ain't short, though.
Well, time-wise, it can be short, especially if you're spending that kind of money in the strip club. You ain't one of the long standers in there, but nonetheless. but yeah, I mean, realistically, I don't see where Edge has enough to prove.
No.
The only reason, honestly, I could see him go back to wrestling would be to go to AEW and to finish with Christian. That's it.
Yeah.
If there wasn't some kind of story embedded in him for that, I don't see the purpose of him going back unless he wanted to go out like at a Mania or something like that.
And God forbid, if you do put Edge and Christian back in the ring, don't put him in there with the Hardys. I don't want to see
Definitely don't put him in there with the Hardys.
I don't want to see Jeff go at it no more. I'm done. Jeff need to go sit down.
Don't resurrect the Dudleys. No. We don't need to see that.
Even though Impact is resurrecting
Yeah, they
Dudleys.
are resurrected, but that's Impact, so nobody's going to see that anyway. And that'll get seen more on YouTube clips. It won't get seen live.
And well, let's bring in the last guy here. We only got a few minutes left here for this episode, but let's bring in this last guy that we've talked about that you made mention to at the beginning of the episode. We're talking about MJF.
Yeah, well, he's a quick one to talk about because he does more of the talking. He does all the talking for himself. He don't need us.
Yeah. At the end of the day, do I believe Tony Khan's going to let him go? Hell no.
If he does, he's foolish as foolish could be.
He's dumb, and the AEW will probably go on and tank within the next.
Oh yeah, they'll be WCW light if they let him go. I mean,
you can't do like a Bischoff because I can't pay him, so I'm gonna send him over there to make more money. No, you better pay the boy now because
you don't want to give him the opportunity to go over there and make more money because one, WWE ain't gonna shy up on paying that kind of money for that kind of talent. Where that kid's at right now, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. He just main evented the largest attendance record, of all time wrestling. He main evented that show. He headlined that show.
He opened and closed it.
81,000 tickets, more tickets than WWE has ever sold at any event ever. He headlined it. So WWE, if given the chance, wouldn't hesitate to open up the checkbook for that guy, write him whatever number he needs just to get him in the fold. Cody's already over there. Cody's over there telling him, man, it's a whole lot better over here. The grass is greener, blah, blah, blah. MJF knows all that. He's not a fool. But he also knows the more he builds his stock and the more he heralds himself, the better off his payday is going to be. And that's what he's in it for, and he's smart for it.
Absolutely. And do I hope one day I'll see him in the WWE ring? Absolutely.
One day,
just to see it happen. Do I want it to be now? No.
Definitely not now.
No.
WWE ain't ready for an MJF character, and I don't know if MJF's ready for WWE just yet.
Agreed. So what happens next with these guys? I don't know.
Well, I guess we'll see.
We'll have to keep watching and find out. So if you are interested in what we talked about today, go out there on our social media platforms, drop us a line. Do you see them guys staying? Do you see them going? Do you see something else happening that we didn't mention? Reach out there and let us know. And with that, everybody, we thank you for joining today's episode, and we bid you adieu.
All right, and if those contracts are getting paid, I say run.
Today's podcast was produced by SBP. You can find our podcast on all major podcast platforms. Also connect with us on our social media accounts. Search for The Bookers Alliance on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.